Alrighty guys, welcome to week 4. Hope you had an awesome week. Right, so let's get going on this. We're going to hop over to Learning Path, head over down to week 4. Okay, and we're going to be doing SVG animations. We're going to be using steps to do sprite animation, and we'll talk about different play states and so forth. Okay, so this week, I don't care what you use, I don't care what you create. But you need to use animation playset, transform origin. You need to animate at least 2 sprites. We'll talk about what those are and how you can get them there. And then we have animate at least 2 SVGs that you have to create. So the thing that you animate here is something you need to create. You can't just pull it offline. You need to draw whatever you're going to move or animate in Illustrator. Okay, and again, you want portfolio items, so I would recommend having all these animations play together. Make some cool scene and have things happen, or whatever. Go as crazy as you want. This is going to be due in 2 weeks. I'm giving you a lot of time to do this so you can make something really cool. So I'll show you the concepts, and then you can use those to do whatever you want to do. All right, so we have the HTML set up. Okay, blank CSS. Let's see what. Oh, I don't want this to be Mario. It's going to be MM from Mega Man. All right, let me show you what I have. So I got this. Nope, not that one. Get rid of that one. I got this dang baby right here, horribly cut out in Photoshop. But we're going to show you how you can have paused animations and play animations. With that, we have this little sprite here that has the walk cycle of Mega Man. I'm going to show you how you can use CSS animations to play these play these so quick that it looks like it's animating basically. And then we have an SVG here that we're going to animate. Okay. So let's open up this. Let's see what we have. We just have this ding baby right here, and that's it so far. So I want it basically to where when I mouse over the baby, the animation is going to start. But I'm going to load the animation and tell it to pause, and then once I mouse over the baby, it's going to tell the animation to play. So this is how we do that. So I gave the baby a class of role. All right, so we'll start styling that, if I can type. All right, and then I'm going to come down here and set up the animation for the baby. So keyframes, just like we've done before. I'm going to call it spin. We call it roll, call it whatever you want. So basically at 0% of the animation, I'm going to do a transform, and the transform is going to be rotate. Oh wait, hold on here. No, I don't want to do that. I'm going to call this not spin, we'll call it baby. Seems to make a little more sense. Okay, and there's kind of a shorthand that you can do here. If I don't put in 0% and I just put in 100% and then I define it, what it's going to do is it's just going to take all of the styles and such that it had to begin with, and it'll just start from there. All right, so all I'm going to do is, do the transform, rotate, and I'm going to have it rotate 1 turn. So you don't always have to define a 0%. You can define the 100% and it'll just take whatever the baby has to begin with, which is going to be the following. So it's going to do the animation baby. It's going to take, I'll say 2 seconds linear because I don't want any easing. I just want it to move in like one mechanical motion. And I'm just going to have it go forever. Okay, so we'll save that, take a look, and that dang baby's just going. Amazing. Incredible. Well, but I don't want it to just start playing, even though as cool as that is, right? So I'm going to do the animation play state. So I got animation play state, and I want it to be paused. In other words, it won't be playing. It's loaded the animation, it's ready to do it when I tell it to, but it's paused. It's just sitting there. Okay, so it hasn't moved, it hasn't ran the animation yet because I've told it to pause. All right, so now I can come down here and I can say, well, when I hover over the baby, okay, we did this, I think, a couple weeks ago, but it's a little bit different. So now the animation play state's going to be running. So this is just another way you can kind of load the animation. It doesn't do anything until you mouse over, and then it just starts rolling. Now right now it looks like the baby's like falling into some crazy pit, and it's gonna, I don't know, like an Alice in Wonderland type thing. But I don't want the baby to be rotating. See, it's rotating around basically his armpit right now, or her armpit. I don't know which one. But that's not how babies roll. Babies roll usually around their neck. So I kind of want the origin, or the point that it rotates around, to be around the baby's neck. So if this is the whole picture, I kind of need to think, okay, so the neck is probably, I don't know, 80%, 70% of the way down, and maybe 40, 50% to the left. I'm just talking about this square here. So if this is the bottom, the neck is probably, yeah, 70, 80% of the way down from the picture, and then from the left, it's maybe 40, 50% of the way to the left. And so once you kind of figure out where that, it's called the origin, the point that it's going to rotate around is, you can come over here and you can say the transform origin is going to be about, what did I say, 40% from the left, about 80% from the top. That's how that works. Okay, so now it's rotating, yeah, not too bad. That's kind of what I wanted. It's rotating base, well, yeah, about around the neck. So now it looks a little more real, right? As real, as real as it can look. But that's what transform origin does, is it just kind of tells you where the middle of the picture is, and that's what it's going to use to know how to rotate it around. And we'll be using that again when we get to the SVG picture. But it's good that you understand that, so you can, if things are rotating a little too much, or you want to change the point of which it rotates around, that's how you do that. Okay. Okay. So that's animation playset. Excuse me. And transform origin. All right, so now we're going to play around with Mega Man. So I'm going to style him out. So if we come over here, now this took me a while to make. I'm not a huge fan. Now if you go out and you Google, I don't know, you can do video game sprites, or you can call them sprite sheets. Come over here to images. You get all of these types of pictures. Some of them are really small, so they wouldn't be that useful. Excuse me. And others are a little bit bigger. I mean, I don't know. But if you just, I guess I forgot the video game. But there's a bunch out here. You can also Google sprite sheets, or just, sprite sheets. And, there's going to be some that tell you how, or you could save sprite sheets. Maybe this is a better one. Video games. Okay, and you have Spriter's Resource, Sprite Database. You have all these different sites out here that have all these different sprites for these different video games. Mega Man was one of my favorite games growing up, so that's why I used him. And it wasn't too hard, because I don't want you spending forever, because a sprite sheet, like, if you're going to take Mario, or even Mega Man, if you want Mega Man to do all this stuff, you're going to have to use all of these, and that's fine, and that's a lot more impressive if you can get that to work, for sure. But you can see that the way it works is it just has frame by frame the actions that this character takes. Yeah, so here he's standing, he squats down a little bit, and then he, throws his arm in the air, and then a cool little blink comes out. Here is him jumping. Here, this is what he does when he climbs up a wall or a ladder. Or this is him sliding down a wall, and this is him getting hit and stuff. So it just has frame by frame all the motion that he takes when he does his certain actions. Same here with Mario. Mario World. So that's him flying with the cape. So when you take all of these and put them in succession, kind of like a flip book, it looks like motion. So that's the cool thing about these sprite sheets is they give you every picture of every time when they're doing their animations. So when you put them together and you run them together, like I said, like a flip book or something, it looks like they're actually moving, which is pretty slick. So you'll want to go out, find a sprite sheet, or heck, even if you're an awesome artist and you want to draw your own, go for it. But you're going to want to find something where it has all of the different motions for a character. You can find it on Google Images here, or like I said, there's a bunch of those websites that you can go to. Okay. Anyways, so once you're there, what I had to do is I took each one of these and I put it inside of Photoshop and I stacked them on top of each other. The reason why you want to stack them on top is because you want to make sure that each one of these is the exact same width. So in this case, it's 97 pixels wide and it's 370 tall. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell CSS at one point in time, display this, and then the next point, and then whenever I define, in the next point in time, display this one, then display this one, then display this one. So he's running with his arms out, then he pulls his arms back into his body, runs with his arms out, pulls them back into his body, and then I'll just tell it to repeat. And then it goes like that, and then it ends up looking like it has motion. But the main thing you need to worry about is try to keep the height as same as possible, and then make sure you have the width be the same for all of these as well. So try to keep the height the same for all of these and the width the same for all of these, and then just stack them on top. Okay, and you should be able to do that in Photoshop, no problem. All right, so I'm going to say width. So I got my div with the class of M. I'm going to throw in this picture as a background. I'll just get rid of the 2 here. As a background image for that div. So the Mega Man walk. Now I know this is 97 by 370. So the width is going to be 97 pixels. Now, because I don't want to show the whole picture here, I don't want to show this whole thing, I got to kind of take the height, divide it by 4, because I have 4 of these different individual blocks. And then I'll know about how big the div needs to be. So, what was it, 370? Yep, so 370, okay, divided by 4, 92.5. So each one of these sections is about 92.5. And you may need to tweak these numbers a little bit more later. But for now, this is what I'll put in and we'll see if it works. Okay, and then I'm going to throw in the background picture. So the URL is going to be the Mega Man walk. Okay, I want this to be transparent. I really don't need to put that in there just because it already is, because of the PNG, but it can't hurt. The position of it is going to be 0 from the top, 0 from the left, and then I don't want it to repeat. Okay. Let's see, and then just because I want to put it somewhere different on the page, I don't want it going on top of the baby here. I'm going to do position absolute. We'll throw it down, I don't know, 400 pixels and like 20 pixels to the left. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have. So there he is. I'll bring him up a little bit. What the heck just happened? That was weird. All right, so 350. Man, that baby's awesome. Okay, let's put 325. All right, so that's good. So it's just showing that first picture, this one right here. It's just showing that. And now I just need to tell CSS to show that one, then show the next one, and then repeat. And so I need to create that animation here. So I'm going to say, we'll go keyframes. I'll call this run, because that's what he's going to be doing here. And start him out at 0%. And I want the background position of him to be 0, 0. In other words, 0 from the top, 0 from the left. When it's done, this is where you'll have to tweak the numbers a little bit. But when it's done, the background position is going to be, let's see, where is it? So it starts here, and then when the animation's done, this picture basically needs to be pushed up. So this one is now here, and it's being displayed. So that's really all that's going on here. So when it's done, I need the background position to be showing that the last pose here that Mega Man's in. So we'll say it's still going to be 0 from the left, and it's going to be around negative 370-ish because the picture is 370. So I'll just put in the actual height of it. So when the animation is done, it's still going to be 0 from the left, but it'll have moved up 370 pixels. All right, that's what's going on there. And that should be about it, like all we need to do for this. So now we need to get in here and apply that animation to Mega Man here. So the animation we're going to be using is run. Right now, just so we can see it, I'm going to say each one's going to take 3 seconds. And we have to define steps. This is where we're getting into some new stuff. So the steps, what that's defining is how many things or how many times it's going to show something in this animation. So because we have 4 different states of him running, we have 4 steps. So it kind of does the math for us. It goes, all right, you got 4 steps. So at 0%, it's going to be 0, 0. The step 1, it's going to move. It's basically going to take this 370 and divide it by 4, right? Which is at 92.5 or whatever. So it's step 1, it's going to be at 0, 0. It's step 2, it's going to be at 92.5. It's step 3, it's going to be at 185. 185, right? I hate math. 185, right? And then at the third one, it's something else. Don't want to do the math. But it just knows that, okay, you're doing this many steps. It needs to get there. So it divides it by the number of steps, and then it knows how much to push it up. So 4 steps. So if on your sprite, if you had like 10 different states, then you'll need to do 10 different steps. Okay, so steps are just the individual things inside the animation that happen. All right, and then I want it to run forever. Okay, let's take a look. All right, runs, goes back, runs. That's not too bad. Now, obviously, it's kind of slow. He's going a lot slower than I'd want him to. So that's because I have the 3 seconds here. So I found about 0.5 seconds works pretty good with this. So now it looks like he's running, which is pretty slick. Now I can chain animations together if I want. So, okay, I got him running, but who cares? He's just kind of running in place, and that just looks a little weird. It would look a lot more natural if he was moving across the screen, right? So that's what we want to do. So I can set up another animation. Now I could keyframe this out, right? I could say, I could all combine this into the one, but I don't really want to, just because I like to keep them separate, but it's up to you. I could say, 0% background position, and then I could say, position whatever. I could tell him to move over from the left, but right now I'm not going to do that. So we got keyframes move because I want to show you how you can combine more than one animation to an element. So I got this other one, so it's going to start from left of 20 pixels because that's where he is right now. That's where I want him to start. So he's going to start from left 20 pixels to left 100%. And the 100% is just going to make it so no matter the length or the width of the screen, he'll always run off of it. Okay. So now that we've defined that animation, we need to apply it. So we got the animation of run right here. So let's just kind of move this over. You can see a little bit better. All right, so I've applied run. Now to apply multiple animations to one class here or one element, you just use a comma. So I can hit comma, and I'll just come down here to the next line just to make it easier to read. Move. It's going to take 5 seconds to get across the stage. I don't need any steps. I'm going to say linear, so he just kind of moves at the same speed. Let's take a look and see what that looks like. So there he goes. Goodbye, Mega Man. Oh, but he came back, right? It started over. So if we come back here and we apply both, talked about this a couple weeks ago, that's going to make it so when the animation stops, he's going to stay where the animation stopped. So there he goes. Bye, Mega Man. And he stops. Okay. So, yeah, you can chain multiple animations to one element, which is pretty slick. Okay, and that's how you do the sprites. Don't kill yourself. Don't go too crazy hard with the sprite, but, you know, challenge yourself. Do something that looks cool and is halfway awesome. Alrighty, so got that. Now we're gonna talk about SVGs. SVGs are scalable vector graphics, and they're just kind of what they sound like. They're vector graphics. If you know anything about vector graphics versus pixel-based graphics, like PNGs, these are pixel-based. So as these get bigger, they're going to get pixelated. They're going to look worse, and so forth. But SVGs are just done with math. They're created with math. So if you make them bigger or smaller, they're going to look great. Doesn't matter. They're very scalable, hence the scalable and the SVG. And also they don't, if you make these any bigger, this will mess with the file size. It'll make it bigger or smaller depending on what you do with the pixels. With SVGs, all you're doing is changing numbers. So as you make things bigger or smaller, the file size is going to stay the same. Because all you're doing is taking like 100 and you're making it 800 and it's bigger, but you didn't add more pixels to it. You just changed a number. So the size of it is going to be the same. Okay, so I'm going to open this up with Illustrator. I'm not going to create it just because that'll take too long, but you're going to want to create something. Now this is kind of a weird thing. After I saved it out as an SVG, I created this compass. The N obviously was here and the S obviously was here. But after I saved it out as an SVG and then I opened it back up inside of Illustrator, it moved the N and S over, but it actually still works. But this is what you want to do. So obviously think about beforehand, what do you want to animate? What I've planned out to do here is I have this compass, I have the needle here, and I just want the needle to spin. That's it. Something simple, nothing too crazy, but I'm just going to have the needle spin. So think about what you want to have happen and then draw it out. Because this part of the assignment you have to draw from scratch. You have to create it. So you got to be inside of Illustrator, flex your Illustrator chops, and then make something awesome. But you also want to know the end game, know what you want to have animate. So once you have it drawn out like I do here, you're going to come over to the layers. There we go. And you want to make sure everything is named correctly, because when I spit this out as SVG code, it's gonna name everything what I name it. So I name the whole picture here just compass. We have the S and the N, just called S and N, that's fine. Now the needle, the way I did the needle, I'm not an Illustrator buff. I basically took there's probably easier ways to do this, but I took the paintbrush and I just kind of dotted it a bunch to fill in the black here. So when I come down here to needle, we got all these blotches, and that's okay. That isn't going to mess up what I'm trying to do. But this whole thing I grouped as a needle, and that's one thing you'll want to do. If you know what you want to animate, you're probably going to want to select everything, okay, and then group it up. You go, object group, or Control G, Command G. So when you head over to your layers, the needle, that's what I'm going to be animating. Everything that takes up the needle or makes up the needle is right here, and that's good. That's what I want, because I want to animate all this stuff is one, which is the needle, and that's what I want. So just make sure whatever you're animating or whatever you're going to do is grouped up, kind of in its own layer. Okay, and then there's the circle. So once you have it done, you have everything in the layers named how they should be. It's pretty simple. Come over here to File, Save As. Okay, go to this drop down and pick SVG. And I called it Compass. I'll call it Compass 2 because I already saved it out. We'll hit Save, and it's going to come up and it's going to ask us a bunch of different stuff. This is all the SVG options. Now we're never even going to hit OK here. I mean, you can if you want to save it, and yeah, you probably should if you want to save it. But to be honest, I wouldn't really save it all the way as an SVG. I'd save it as the AI file, the Illustrator. So you can come back and mess around with things if you want to, and then always just save it back out. Because we're actually not going to save it all the way as an SVG. So we go File, Save As, choose the SVG. I'm going to call this one Compass 2. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take this to an SVG optimizer, and we're going to save it from there. So what you want to do is come here to More Options. There are a bunch. Okay, we're really not going to worry about most of these. The one thing we do want to take a look at here is the CSS properties. We want to change this to presentation attributes because that just makes it easier to animate. It's kind of what I was reading. So the rest of this is good. We really don't need to mess with any of it. So we're going to hit SVG code. Okay, on Windows, it opens up Notepad, and this code is what will create my picture, which is interesting, right? So I'm going to grab this, Command A, Control A to select it all, Command C, Control C to copy it. And I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to Google SVG Optimizer. And I'm going to use this Peter Collinridge. I'm going to use his. Okay, I clicked on this second one. This first one, you can kind of do the same thing. I think they're basically the same thing. I don't know. One's the optimizer, one's the editor, but I don't know. So there's the editor. I'm going to throw in the code. I'm going to hit load. Okay, and there it is. And that's what's weird, is my SVG is fine. My SVG code is fine, even though in Illustrator it shows up over here, the N and S. But over here, it's fine. Just weird. But anyways, so there it is. Okay, really, you just kind of want to play around with these things. Like the optimization, you can just go conservative and then be done. Or you can just say, well, I'm going to remove all the white space, which I wouldn't do because that's going to make the SVG code a lot harder to read. And we got to pull some things out of it to be able to animate things. So I wouldn't do that. Namespaces, same thing. I wouldn't really remove any of this, but yeah, remove empty elements. Yeah, if there's any empty tags or something. Sometimes you'll have a bunch of crap in this code that just isn't necessary. So yeah, we'll remove that. I'm going to remove any unnecessary groups. Maybe I have some groups inside of Illustrator that just don't need to be there. Now I hit combining paths where possible. Oh, well, crap. My my circle just went away. I don't want that. So, okay, obviously not going to check that. And then the decimal places, yeah, I don't really care. Okay. Or I could just hit conservative. It does most of what I was going to do anyways for me. So I'm okay with that. But the cool thing is over here, it'll show you how it's going to change your picture. And it still looks exactly the same way that I want it to, so I'm okay. So I'll hit download. And it's optimize.svg. So I'm going to call it actual compass 2. Okay, and I'm going to save it in here. I'll hit save. Okay, and you can see it saves it out as basically, it looks at it almost like an HTML document. Because if I right click this and I open it in brackets, this is the code of of my SVG document. So this code is what will actually create my picture. And that's why if I make things bigger or whatever, all I'm doing is changing math. I'm changing things that make it bigger. I'm not actually, I'm not adding pixels, so I'm not messing with the size of it. So this is where things get a little crazy. So now I've opened it inside of a text editor. So I actually need to put this in my HTML file for it to show up. Well, let's see here. I'm not sure if I can do it as an image tag. I don't think so, but maybe things have changed. Throw that in there. Maybe you can. Okay, I can. I'm just not sure if I'll be able to animate things or not. We'll see in a minute. Okay, I'll keep it thrown in there like that. And we'll see if I'll be able to animate things on it as well, or still. All right. And if this doesn't work, I'm just going to have to copy and paste that over. Okay, so let's say it's there. So I'm going to look at the SVG stuff, and we need, okay, a bunch of W3 links. Don't really care about any of that. Well, right now this thing is massively huge, right? So I can come in here to this SVG tag, and I can say width equals whatever I want it to be. And, oh, I'm in compass 2. So I'll use that one. All right, so now it's smaller. Now you can see that it has, there it is, an ID of compass. So actually I'm going to bring this over real quick so we can see the CSS as well. So it has an ID of compass, so I can target that in my CSS and do things. So I can come right here and I can say, all right, ID of compass. And I could say, I can position it wherever I want it. So I'll say, you know, top 500, left 20 pixels, save that out. Oh, yeah, I'm an idiot. Just see here. Yeah, I don't, okay, so that kind of proved to me that the animation probably isn't going to work. Because, yeah, I threw it in there as an image, but I'm guessing that that doesn't really load the ID of compass. And if it did, then, well, that image would have moved down. So the ID, I hope you get what I'm saying here, but the ID is actually buried inside of the code inside this SVG. So when I target compass and I tell it to do something, it's not doing it. So really, yeah, I'm gonna have to come here, grab this code, copy it, and then I gotta throw it in here. All right, so now I have SVG, I have the ID of compass, the width of 300. Okay, so now this should work, and the compass should go down a little bit, which it does. Okay, so I'm going to bring it up. Maybe a little bit more. Mega Man can run behind the compass, that's fine. All right, so yeah, I would probably just say when you're doing it, just grab your SVG code, copy it, and then just throw it in your HTML file. And then you'll be able to edit things and animate things. Okay, so now let's take a little bit more of a look. So now we have this G tag with an ID of circle. Okay, so if I wanted to animate the circle, because that's what I named it in Illustrator, right? Remember, I came over here. If I go into my layers, I named it circle, so that's where it got that ID from. So if I wanted to mess around and do something with this circle, well, I could. I just target that ID of circle, but I don't want to do that. And this is all the math and all the values and all the numbers that create that circle. This is what I want to mess with, is the needle. Now, because I put it in that group, right here, this group needle, the SVG code did that as well. So now I got this G tag with the ID of needle that's closed all the way down here, line 53. So all this stuff right here was all the different dots that I put in when I was filling it in with the paintbrush and all that kind of stuff. But I want to animate the whole needle, that whole group. Okay, and you should, already know how to do that. So I'll come down here, I'll set it up. So keyframes, I'm just doing what I've done before. So spin, I'll start it out at 0%. Transform, rotate. It's going to start out with 0 turns. Okay, and by 100%, or when it's done, do whatever I want here. Rotate, I'll have it rotate 3 times. All right, so I've already targeted the ID of compass. Now all I need to do is target the ID of needle and apply that animation to it. So I have a needle, and I just set up the animation. So the animation I want to apply to it is spin. I'll have it take 4 seconds. I want this one to be linear as well, and I want it to be infinite. Let's see what happens. Look at that. That's a little weird. So it's actually rotating kind of like this. Remember that origin thing we were talking about? Yeah, it's basically, if you think about it, what it's doing is it's rotating from the upper left-hand corner of the needle, which was about right here. So it's just going like that, basically. Okay, well, we don't want that, right? Obviously. So we got to do what we just did up here, the transform origin. So transform origin. Now, like I said, it's being rotated by basically the upper left-hand corner. It's rotating from this in the middle. Well, we want it to rotate in the middle of the needle, right? The origin needs to be right in here, right in the middle. It needs to just spin around that. So, well, if this is the square, okay, and it's currently rotating from here, so it's rotating around like that, well, we just need to say 50%, 50%. So 50% from the left, 50% from the top, that's dead set in the middle. And there we go. Rock on. Okay, SVGs aren't going anywhere. It's the new, not really new, but it's a new kid on the block, right? It's the new type of images that you can create on the web, and they're good because of the scalability for responsive design. They can get bigger, smaller, and they don't take up any more file size or any more file space. So this is what I want you to do, guys. Play around with all this stuff. Play around with the animate play states, the transform origins, animate some SVGs that you create in Illustrator, and about it. I think that's about it. I don't know. Over here. Animation play state, transform origin, and, oh yeah, the sprites. Grab some sprites, create them, or find some on the web of one of your favorite characters. Chances are, if it's an old school video game, the sprites are out there. And animate those sprites, and then the two SVGs. So, like usual, any questions, let me know. Good luck, guys. We'll see you on week 6. See ya.